It seems like every week there's a new Social Security proposal being bandied about, and some new politician or policy wonk trying to persuade us it's the best idea yet. But with all the politicking that has surrounded these ideas, it's hard to figure out what impact they'll have on us and on our country's mounting budget deficit. I'm Sarah Bartlett, and this is our topic today on USA Inc. Joining us today is Natalie Gordon, a member of the AARP's National Legislative Council, which has helped the AARP formulate its position on the great Social Security debate. Natalie, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Let's talk a little bit about the National Legislative Council. What is that? How are you formulating your opinions? What kind of research is done?
Well, let me begin by saying that AARP, as probably most people know, is a not-profit, nonpartisan organization. It's governed by a volunteer board of directors, and I'm on the 25-member National Legislative Council, also volunteers. We have a responsibility for studying issues, and each year we're given another kind of look at what are the issues to be discussed at this point. Social Security, as you are aware, is a very important issue, and it's one that we've been studying for several years and continue to study as new ideas come along, as new proposals come along, etc. Our responsibility is to learn as much as we can, and we have opportunities to meet with academics, with business people, with legislators, with policy analysts. Our staff pulls together materials for us, and as a result, we pull together our recommendations and make those recommendations to the board. Let me just make a comment. There are 3 committees. I'm on the Economics Committee, and that's why Social Security has been of key importance. The other 2 committees are Health and Consumer Issues, and frequently we meet together, but generally work on a specific portion of our work, and there are only 8 of us on the Economics Committee.
What are the proposals that you've made to the board and that have helped them adopt it? What are the policies of the AARP on Social Security?
Well, Social Security has been of great importance to all of us older people, and we believe it will be to the next generation and to the generation after that. Our major concern has been to maintain the security of Social Security, to maintain its viability, to be certain that it will be there for my children and my grandchildren.
Well, that sounds like President Bush's platform as well.
I'm delighted that is so. We have possibly a difference in opinion as to how to get to that sense of stability.
And what is that difference of opinion? What does it focus on?
Well, I think we are concerned about not carving out of Social Security funds anything, because if you carve out, if I take this glass of water and pour some of it out, there will be less water there.
Mm-hmm. I get that logic.
It's also, because of that, we need to figure out how to strengthen it. 20 years ago, there were some shifts in the program, and now we believe that with some really good discussion with all of the stakeholders, that we can come to the kinds of planning that will enable the program to stay in effect.
So you don't disagree that there's a problem, it's just how to solve that problem.
It's certainly not a crisis, and it's almost angering me, because I think that what happens is that the next generations are being rather dismissive. And if they are dismissive, then it's really very sad, because they're unaware of the need for a safety net, and they can be captured by the idea of owning my own account
Well, it sounds good. It appeals to sort of the entrepreneur in many Americans, and the idea that, there is a feeling that, let's keep government out of my private affairs. So what is the AARP's problem with private accounts?
Well, I think, as I said, carving money out of Social Security simply is not going to strengthen it. It will weaken it immediately.
And so it's the idea that they're taking a piece of the payroll tax and putting it into this private account.
That's right.
But if the idea is that that can be invested in the stock market and the returns will be higher.
Great idea, but not out of Social Security money.
What do you propose instead?
People can do private accounts as much as they like, however they want to do it. I spoke with a woman about 2 or 3 weeks ago who was absolutely devastated. She had taken all of her savings, aside from Social Security, obviously, put it into the market, thought she was retiring on a high, and when she retired, it was at a low. And she said to me, I don't know what I would do without Social Security. Fortunately, I have Social Security and I have health care, but that's all I have. And she had assumed at retirement that she was going to be able to really not have to worry about income.
Recently, President Bush made a major speech in which he focused on progressive indexing, which is a term that I think means very little to most people. Can you explain what he is thinking about with that and what the AARP's position is on that?
Well, again, it's another way of changing what we now have, which permits the kind of support across all income groups. And if we change that so that one set of income groups has a different set of benefits than another set of income groups, it changes the sense of, well, for a better phrase, the social contract that we have, the opportunity for people of all backgrounds, all incomes, to know that there is an equal base, that all of us are going to have that kind of money, what we have put in, based, and our income based on that. There are other options.
Such as?
Well, one idea that I think has not gotten a lot of play is the idea of increasing from $90,000 to even as much as $140,000 of income, even over a 10-year period, so that it moves slowly, and enabling that additional funding. I think what I missed in that sentence was having Social Security.
The payroll tax be applied over the $90,000, right? So that, in other words, there'd be more tax revenue coming in from higher income people.
Right.
And why do you feel that that hasn't had a sort of been well received politically?
Well, I think that the White House has done a big job on putting forward other proposals. Because of that, this idea hasn't really surfaced, except here and there you'll find some reference to it. But there hasn't been a nationwide discussion of it. And frankly, I'm delighted with this program because any opportunity we have to talk a little bit more about what we'd be giving up if we change Social Security and making it the kind of national discussion on a very open basis across generations, and I say it with passion. If I don't have the kind of security in my retirement, which I do, my children and my grandchildren will be stuck with how are we going to take care of Mama. So it's intergenerational.
It is. In terms of just going back for a second to the progressive indexing, it seemed to me that your point was we don't want to treat different income groups differently, but if you increase the tax on the higher income individuals, taking it from $90,000 up, is that not in fact
it's a very modest kind of increase. It really is. And certainly when we started Social Security so many years ago, no one ever thought that a lot of people would be having an income of $90,000, and that has changed a great deal.
Oddly enough, when you think about what private accounts could do for the problem that we face, it's actually very little. As I understand it, it doesn't really address the financial shortfall that we have. It's really almost an ideological or philosophical change.
And that's of concern, because it has the illusion, and maybe for young people, there's the illusion of, I will have some real opportunity to build my own nest egg. Won't that be more? I'll have control. And they really will not have a lot of control.
Because the investment options are very...
The investment options are
circumscribed?
enormously limited. The amount of cost for handling these, the administrative costs, are very high. And as I said, they're going to end up not having any true advantage, although the promise, the glitz, the sound bites, and it's almost deceitful, and I think runs against the grain of most of us Americans who say, let's not fool ourselves. Let's not fool the children. Let's make certain that they don't think that they can get something for nothing.
What do you think the level of understanding is, both amongst your membership and the population at large, of this issue? Has this issue captivated people?
Well, certainly our membership is enormously invested in it. We have meetings from time to time in different parts of the country, and wherever I have been, a marvelously well-educated group. They really want to know the details, and it's been very gratifying, because there's this sense of investment in understanding, and it's very exciting to see people of all walks of life, all incomes, all national and backgrounds.
And what do your polls show in terms of what they like and don't like about the proposals?
When they hear about it, when they understand even this very small amount of description that we've had thus far, they're enormously concerned and really are, I think, becoming active in terms of letting legislators know, don't destroy Social Security. And I love the fact that they often talk about their children and their grandchildren and their responsibility, our responsibility to educate the next generations, who remember very well, certainly I do, the Depression and the importance of having this wonderful program that will at least give a base, at least have some sense of security.
Mm-hmm. That's the name. We'll be right back.
The Zicklin School of Business at Baruch College of the City University of New York is the largest and most diverse accredited business school in the United States, offering high-quality, full-time and part-time degree programs at the undergraduate, master's, and PhD levels. For information about the Zicklin School of Business, please visit our website, zicklin.baruch.cuny.edu. That's zicklin.baruch.cuny.edu.
Welcome back. I'm speaking with Natalie Gordon, a member of the AARP's National Legislative Council, and also, I might add, a CUNY doctorate.
Indeed.
So it's very nice to have you on the show for that reason as well. Let's talk a little bit more about some of the other proposals that we've been hearing about. There's the so-called price indexing idea. What is that all about, and what would the impact be on my aunt or my mother if something like that went through?
Well, your aunt and your mother are probably hold safe. I think that one of the problems with all of the proposals that tend to differentiate among the generations is that they are also in danger of splitting us. And clearly we are not able to be split. My children and grandchildren are my concern, and I am their concern. What will happen over the long haul will be that it will transform Social Security from a retirement program to more of a welfare program as it splits now not the generations but the income levels of people. And it reduces the idea of all of us putting in based on our income and receiving based on our income. The danger also financially, aside from the social policy issue, is that it's going to, the opportunity for building up a nest egg, for building up the and overcoming the shortfall is simply not there. It's rather illusory. That's a bad word. An illusion.
An illusion. So with the retirement benefits, when would someone start to feel the crunch of that? I mean, a 60-year-old is okay, but a 50-year-old is not.
I think probably 54, 55 from there on up is held harmless. The major problem will be that middle income group. Because of this split, the lowest income people will not feel the difficulty. The higher income people will not feel it. It'll be right in the middle, and the middle income people are the ones who have the most huge burden now, the most inability to find funds to put aside for this, that, and the other, because their current resources really pretty much cover what they're doing, with concerns about an older parent that needs a little bit of help, or a younger child that's in college, that kind of squeeze. And it will be at this point, as they begin to retire, that the funds will be less than they would have securely handled under Social Security.
So it's the middle class, middle-aged population that would be most affected by some of these indexing arguments. What about if people are so determined to raise the returns by stock investing, why couldn't the Social Security Administration simply do that?
What a great idea.
I should run for office.
Well, I want to tell you that AARP is also suggesting that, saying take some of the funds, if you think the stock market is great, take some of the Social Security funds, instead of doing it all in the trust funds, put some of it into the stock market. But then it's a shared risk. And then when you retire, you're not going to say, is the stock market good for me or bad for me? I know that I will get what I'm expecting to have.
Now, some people have said we shouldn't even listen to what the AARP says because they have a vested interest. They, in fact, endorse financial products. So how can they both be opining on public policy and at the same time enjoying the financial rewards of endorsing certain financial products? Can you speak to that issue?
Well, I think that I think it's a question that often comes up, and our members are very clear on the fact that what we endorse is based on what we think is a good product, and we have not ever determined an endorsement or sold a product that doesn't in fact meet the needs of our members. And the needs of our members always come first. It's one of the reasons that we have a consumer committee on the National Legislative Council, in order to determine that.
You've been at the subject of some political pressure because you've taken the stance that you have on this Social Security issue. There were ads running not too long ago that accused the organization of all kinds of political no-nos, like being in favor of gay marriage and not being supportive enough of our troops in Iraq. What is that all about?
Well, what relevance does it have, number one? And
well, is there any truth to it?
Of course there's no truth to it.
Let's just say that.
Neither issue comes before the National Legislative Council for discussion, and neither issue is on our agenda. I think those ads really indicate that there's a level of desperation, because I believe that our message has been clear, has helped certainly the older generation that is so familiar with the value of Social Security, and our ability to continue to tell that to the next generation. And I think we've been successful with that, and so if you're going to find opposition, they will stoop to whatever level they need to.
Well, you've mentioned a couple of times the sort of notion of a social contract, of the idea that you put in, there should be some relationship between what you put in and what you take out, which really implies a sort of social mindedness that I'm not sure, is that still in keeping with the present day focus on the individual and individual responsibility, the ownership society? Maybe there's a cultural disconnect here that we don't appreciate.
I think there might be a cultural disconnect in the media, and not referring to
Present company.
this particular program. I think that when one talks about issues and values, that's what it's all about. How we can care for each other and how we have a responsibility to care for each other. And that leads me to something we haven't talked about, if you don't mind. It occurs to me, Social Security is not only retirement income. There's a very, very heavy need for the kinds of programs it offers in terms of disabilities and in terms of death benefits. I have a member of my family who is a widow raising an 8-year-old child. And when her husband died, at least there was something that will be there for them until that child reaches maturity.
I think that's an important point. And one of the things that I think there's a misperception about is the idea that somehow you cannot pass on to the next generation the results of your Social Security. That's been one of the things that opponents have brought up who are supporting individual accounts. They say that's the only way you can leave money to the next generation. Can you explain how that works with Social Security, that you do have some options?
Well, the options there are for a worker who's disabled and where there's death, that the income is there for support until that child is of maturity, goes on to being able to care for him or herself, and for the widow and or widower, and that because of that, again, that base, that small amount, and it may be small, but it's there and you know that you have it. And there are enormous numbers of people who have not been able to save for retirement, have not been able to put away monies. And as one of your guests not so long ago discussed, pensions are not as secure and reliable as we, in my generation, assumed they were.
So this is another reason why Social Security is such a core...
It's just a base.
Yeah.
There are several different legs. AARP talks about the three-legged stool that you need for retirement. And that is your pension, if you have one, your health care benefits, if you have them, and Social Security.
Which we hope we'll have.
Right.
What do you think is going to happen in Washington if we switch gears and talk a little bit about the political process? Where do you see things going?
I think that that Congress is very mindful of its constituents, and I think it's aware that the constituents are not ready to be sold on anything that's going to weaken Social Security. I believe that they're hearing it.
And what is the AARP doing to ensure that?
Educating our membership, encouraging them to express their opinions, making certain that they continue to educate their neighbors, friends, and family.
Has it surprised the organization that President Bush has taken the position that he has and been so persistent and put so much energy into it? I mean, the White House has really staked this out as a prime issue.
I don't know if AARP is surprised. No, let me say it, on a personal basis, I'm gratified to see that there has been as much discussion raised. And that point is important, and AARP believes that we should have as much discussion as possible.
But what happens now? I mean, he said individual accounts have to be a part of it, and there are certain parts of the Republican Party that are endorsing that, and then you've got the other side saying it's a third rail issue, we can't go there. What happens now?
But that includes Republican members of Congress as well. And I think that the discussion is a good one. I think we have had a couple of new ideas. I think there will be more. We've been fortunate in hearing about ideas and being able to analyze them and understand them. But I'm going to say one more time, and that is, if you weaken Social Security by carving money out, then you're certainly not going to have that base that you need.
So the new ideas would be taking the salary level higher, above $90,000 for the payroll tax, perhaps allowing Social Security to invest some
portion
money
of it
into equities, Any other proposals that you think we're going to get serious look at in the next few months?
I think these are the basic ones that we have been talking about, and I'm looking forward to hearing more and more of our population weighing in on it.
I wonder if there'll be some kind of deal cut in a back room somewhere.
That always can happen in Congress, as you know. Deals come out in all sorts of ways. I know that AARP is very firm on this issue.
On the individual account issue?
Yes.
We've been fortunate to have a member of the AARP's National Legislative Council, Natalie Gordon, as our guest today. Thanks, Natalie, for being on the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Some people think of New York as the world's second home. The City University of New York, with students coming from 90 countries and speaking more than 155 languages, is the world's first university. Find us on the web at cuny.edu or call us at 1-800-CUNY-YES.
President Bush has expended enormous amounts of political capital trying to persuade Americans of the virtues of individual investment accounts. He seems to believe that if he just crisscrosses the country enough times making speeches, that he will somehow overcome what is clearly an almost visceral fear of over-relying on individual stock picking for one's retirement. There are plenty of good reasons why a majority of Americans haven't embraced President Bush's Social Security initiative. And since individual accounts do nothing to help address the more fundamental problem of a shortfall of funds for the millions who will soon be retiring, it's time for him to move on. The critical debate is this: do we raise taxes or reduce benefits? And if so, by how much, and who should absorb the biggest blows? Individual accounts are a distraction. Enough already. For USA Inc., I'm Sarah Bartlett.